I was in a situation with my family, and I was talking to everyone because there was a serious illness in the family. I was talking to everyone. I would not be quiet about, oh, you know, you need to take care of yourself when you're caring for others. And you really need to do that. It's a really smart idea. You don't want to get depleted, oxygen mask on the plane, the whole bit. And so I was a great, you know, ringing bell, but I didn't apply it to myself. And so I got really depleted and very sick. And for a while, I saw way too much from my doctor. And it was quite, I mean, it was really good that it was proactive, preventative. It was ruling things out. But I spent about 10 months of just one thing and then the next and then the next. And when I got to the end of that, I realized that I was going to get to write more chapters in my life. And I 2 weeks later met up with a publisher at a conference, and we were chatting, and I jokingly said, well, I've started to begin going through menopause and my children are in puberty. So it's shocking anyone is alive in the house because there's a lot of hormones going on. And so I chose to write on the topic of the connecting parenting, but that's just because that's my experience. I really do believe that self-care at any stage of life for anyone is incredibly important.
Yeah. You know, I find it interesting that, you know, it takes these events in our lives. You know, you work with similar individuals that, you know, they're in leadership roles or just leading their families, running businesses. And, you know, it's not until there's something that kind of is like that 2x4 that people talk about or hitting the wall that they really have to stop and take care of themselves. And I know you have 2 sons. I have 2 sons and a daughter. And yeah, parenting at all stages is challenging. And we just had, you know, Mother's Day a few days ago. And I think about the challenges and the rewards and how incredible that these little humans socialize us.
Oh, absolutely. I have learned a lot from them, and happy belated Mother's Day to you. And a number of people asked me what my Mother's Day was like, especially when you're in the parenting realm. There's a little bit of upping the ante. And
right.
Someone said to me, well, how was your Mother's Day? Did they spoil you? And I said, you know, I felt so very fortunate to have meaningful connection and conversation with both of my sons during the day. And we had a nice dinner together.
Yeah.
But really, I have curated something that I value. I don't really need expensive gifts or a huge gathering, but to have that meaningful connection with them is incredibly meaningful for me.
Yes.
So.
Do you find, you know, it varies from person to person, mom to mom, based on some of the love languages too, because, you know,
absolutely,
it's fun to receive a gift, but I just want my kids to cook for me. You know, they're all young adults. I just want them to cook for me or just to hang out with me. Yeah. You know, and it's a simple thing, but that's what I truly want. I want them to, you know, acknowledge that mom's there. And, you know, my son put a social media post that, you know, a picture of the barbecue and steaks that he makes the same meal every year. And I'm like, I don't care. I like it. It works for me, you know, but I can see how upping the ante, but it, you know, if it's not your love language at the end of the day, are you truly going to feel that same appreciation, you know, or, you know, that they took time to draw or put their handprints on a card or write a little note about why they like mom when they're 5 years old, right?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Yeah, it's a very, well, and it's fascinating to me. Nothing like writing a book that mentions parenting to, you know, you're in a conversation and someone will say, oh, well, what's the topic of your book? And I'll say, well, it's about connecting self-care and parenting. And the number of people who say, oh, well, my kids are grown, so I'm really done with that now. And that's a very unique way of looking at it, because both of my children are over 18 now. Yeah. And so they are young men. And it's really wonderful to see them emerging into the individuals they will continue to become.
Yeah.
And I certainly don't feel like parenting has finished. It's just shifted with the times. So.
Yeah. My mom and dad used to say, small kids, small problems, big kids, bigger problems. So I don't think the parenting ever ends.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's
Yeah.
an interesting illusion that when people say that to me, I say, oh, well, that's excellent. But for most people, it's ongoing. And I've actually spoken to a number of people who they are grandparents and they're wanting to foster better relationships with their children because they really want more access to their grandchildren.
Yeah.
And so it's interesting to explore reconnecting if you're at a stage where maybe you're not as connected as you'd like to be and you'd like to build those bridges. So.
You know, I want to talk about one of the stories that you have in your book. And it was about really listening. And I know like Dr. Mark Goulston, he wrote a book called Just Listen, and he wrote the foreword for my book, Let's Be Curious. And that was one of the game-changing books for me about really listening and paying attention to those around you, whether they be your kids, your family members, people you work with, colleagues, to have a deeper listening. I'd love for you to talk a little bit about how you have formed more deeper listening with your boys and the people that you work with.
Yeah, thank you very much. That was that story that I shared with you about my son and A&W. When I decided that I was going to write the book, that was the story that came to me first. So that's why I've shared that one when promoting what I've created. And what I would say is that doing some of my coaching training has really positioned me well for having the comfort with silence and letting someone deal with it and come to it themselves. That's been huge.
Yeah.
Being reflective as opposed to instructive. Answering, asking the open-ended question and then just shutting up has been very effective for me.
Yeah.
Sometimes I mean, I can't think of many parents who at one time or another haven't wanted to just fix it, whatever it may be, just move in, deal with it, fix it, solve it. But really, for me, the value in parenting has been when I hang back. I used to laugh and say that some of my best parenting happened when I was exhausted, I was in bed, nearly asleep, and they'd come and sit on the edge of my bed and they'd talk for over an hour. And I would say almost nothing because I would literally almost be asleep. And the stuff that they would share with me in those moments was absolute gold in terms of connection and understanding what's going on.
Yeah. I have two stories to follow up with that, because I remember as a kid, my mom worked night shift and I used to go see if I could ask for whatever I wanted while she was half awake, because the answer would be, yeah, and then we'd have a discussion in the morning to see if she remembered. And then, there was this time I was working with my business coach and I was telling her, I just feel like my wheels are spinning, but I'm not making traction. And I said, then I have my kids. They're saying, Mom, I want to spend time with you. And I'm like, I don't get this. I am spending time with you. We're in a minivan. We're got the doors locked and we're en route to all your functions and everything. And she says, Deb, you need to go home and mark on the calendar, put each kid on the calendar and make a date with them. And I was like, okay, I'll do that. So the first day I went shopping with my daughter and she was thrilled, had a great time. And then I went with my youngest son and he wanted to go mini golfing. So we went mini golfing. And then the other son, I want to go mini golfing too, Mom. So I went mini golfing with him. And we went mini golfing. We both got a hole-in-one on hole 8 at West Edmonton Mall and took selfies. We were so excited. And then at home, I was asking each of them what their win was during this process. And he said, Mom, you put me on the calendar. And I choke up every single time I tell the story. But I thought I was spending that time with them, like quantity of time was lots, right? But what I learned is that they needed that one-to-one connection. And now I look at I'm the oldest of 5, and I look at the connection with my own parents, that each of us have a very different relationship with each parent because we've taken time to have those conversations. So it really changed my viewpoint. And I've continued to have dates. Like even yesterday, my son's like, see, we went on a date, Mom. We drove to Chapters. We went and did this. We went and did that. We just hung out together. And I'm like, yep, we got the date. He goes, oh, we're good till next year. I'm like, oh no, it doesn't work that way, you know? But it's that deeper listening that really, it's what's not being said.
Yeah. And you know, there's many little catchphrases about the human soul. And I know what I feel like when I'm struggling with something and I just get to be present with someone who really just witnesses me. They're with me, they listen, they hear me. I feel seen and heard in a way that really matters to me. And I've started doing my bit of offering that to the boys. And the things that they open up and tell me because I just express interest, ask one question and stand there is kind of amazing. So.
And you know what? I like how you said you asked the question and stand there, because I had, and this was just not too long ago, one came home, was venting about the day. And I'm like, isn't there anything? It was very reactive, right? I'm like, was there anything that was good in your day? And it just went sideways. And it was interesting because the next day, kind of the same thing. And then I said, so what do you have to look forward to? Totally different direction, right? But it was just because I had thought about the approach and I thought, okay, I got to do this differently. You got to tweak it. And it's no different in, you know, what we do at work or things that we do for ourselves. Is you got to have these tweaking moments.
Yeah. And what I'd like to kind of also share is that I've been doing a fair bit of coaching on the organizational side of things. So I'm a very organized person. I listened to your podcast all about time management and I was like, woo, it hit all my points because I love a well-run meeting. I love a very well laid out calendar with intentional life creation present. Yeah. And what I'm noticing is that, and this is with a lot of women, and I'm sure men as well, but as people get more organized, if they choose to move that direction for themselves, what I'm noticing is as they get more organized, they're wanting to put in whatever their flavor of self-care is. Because they start to realize that they do for others all day long. And to spend 30 minutes or 60 minutes, whether it's going for a walk, whether it's, you know, I'm doing strength training at a gym right now, you know, it's 30 minutes. That's just for me. That's not for anybody else.
Yeah.
And so I'm noticing that as people become present to their calendars and then they match it up with what they truly value, you know, one of my questions is, where are you on your own priority list? And
yeah, exactly.
A lot of people, well, sometimes I can tell that I make people uncomfortable when I ask questions like that, because if they're not present on their own list right now, it can be very confronting. And I love watching people get geared up to, this is my favorite thing. I'm going to go and do my favorite thing.
And if you think about it, if you can't give yourself 20, 30 minutes in your day, what is that really saying?
Well, yeah. And what I find is that many times when I talk about self-care, people give me the reasons they can't do it. Yeah. So, I can't do it. It's so timely. I'm really busy. And I have almost no patience for really busy. Even if it's true, talking about it doesn't make it any better. And, you know, okay, you're busy. I got it. So there's time, then there's money. People say, oh, you know, it's really expensive to go to the spa. Well, you don't need to go to the spa in order to do self-care. It doesn't cost money. But the kicker one is, I'm fine.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, you're fine. Okay. Well, I'm not the self-care police. And if you're fine, that's awesome, because everybody is whatever. Most people are fine. They're already doing it. It's just a matter of, are you putting things into your life that are creating joy or reward for you, that's meaningful for you?
Yeah. And you know what's interesting, Heather? I just want to address this because I don't know, this was me, and I don't know, maybe some people are listening or watching us, and you can add into this. Is I was having a conversation with someone and I was like, you know what? I thought I was doing great with self-care. I thought, going to the gym and journaling and, doing some meditation and prayer, that I was eating healthy, that was all self-care. And I realized, and kind of been forced in that direction to understand that self-care is more than that. And that I got it wrong, because I thought if I'm taking care of myself that way, that I was already caring for myself. But there's more to it, like setting boundaries and all these other things. So I'd love for you to, tell us a little bit more about maybe what people don't understand. Self-care is a lot more than just the basic food, water, and shelter stuff.
Yeah. Well, I'd like to share two things. One is, I've done a gift hour for this Global Institute a few times now, and there are three main areas. One is, so I'll go through the three main areas, and then I'll share a story about what's occurred for me in the last 3 weeks. Sure. You and I were sharing earlier about this. And so the first thing of the three is, it's really important to release the guilt about wanting to take care of yourself, or if you come face to face with the care that I've been giving myself hasn't been effective yet, or it's not quite enough, or it's not quite the right thing, letting go of that guilt that you either need to start caring for yourself and you feel guilty being away from your family, or you feel guilt over, I really haven't been eating healthy enough and now I'm dealing with something. Right. So releasing guilt, we all know that guilt does not help anything. It is not you have such an upbeat tone to all of your podcasts that that guilt doesn't serve anybody. Yeah. Then the second point is truly forgiving yourself, offering compassion, recognizing that you were doing the very best that you could at the time, given what you knew, given what you thought would be beneficial, to let that go. That's one of the reasons that I named the book Gentle with You. Yeah. I think that everybody, it's funny, I just did an offering online and someone said, well, is it a challenge? I said, no, it's not a challenge. We don't need any more challenges right now, I don't think. Yeah. So we called it a guided experience, which is just wording, but still, the gentleness is, oh my gosh, like, isn't it time for us to just take a breath and say, yeah, that didn't go well. I hurt my knee last April because I fell and I needed to rehab. And, did I need to go out there and pound the pavement? No, I needed to be gentle for a minute. The third piece is to legitimately give yourself permission. And this can be really difficult if you're in an environment where everybody depends on you. You've always run the show. You're the person who makes things happen. Part of giving yourself permission is for you to go and take care of yourself, but also giving yourself permission that dinner might be late or messy.